What is up, guys? Today I've got my boy Manny Chee here today, and we're gonna be talking about everything you need to know about the Deps 250. But before we get into that, you guys saw him last video. So what's gonna happen is I'm gonna have him tell what he actually does and everything. So.
Ooh, cool. I'm Manny Chee. I've been coming into my 5th season here of guiding specifically for big baits. Here in Phoenix, based out of the Phoenix area in Arizona. Fish mostly the Salt River chain, Apache, Saguaro, and then like my favorite is Canyon Lake. I think yours is too.
Yeah.
And it's been an awesome experience. Been an amazing 5 years up until this one. This has definitely been like the hardest struggle. Insane, hot temperatures. We were out here in Arizona in shorts and t-shirts for Thanksgiving. Water temperatures real high. Our fish have been acting really strange. Finally, it's coming around. But then the other side of that is I've been plagued with boat issues. Mm-hmm. I've had every time I go out, something breaks, something goes wrong. It's definitely taken its toll. But it's been a fun time. I focus really more on like my main market for all of this was really out-of-state people, and kind of the idea that it's like I have a setup here that our lakes are absolutely beautiful. The scenery is amazing. We have a variety of like different water features that we can fish, whether it's canyon rock walls or deep ledges. This year a lot of grass, tules. So it's really fun. It's really visual. And even when we're fishing kind of open water, you still have great scenery. In those years, I've really learned how to like apply the grass to fishing, both hard baits, soft baits. It's been a really cool thing, and really the best part too is kind of the friendships that you make. I'm doing something where it's like we instantly, guys bonding out there. Right. Usually we're out there catching pigs, and like a lot of PVs have been broken on my boat, and it's a awesome thing, and turning people on to just different baits and different ideas and gear, and they learn it, they take it back home with them, and then even when it's not like this glory fishing trip here, it's really cool that like to see these people take again these techniques, these ideas, and apply them to their home waters, and all of a sudden like they're catching this caliber of fish that they weren't into before. So that's like really the most rewarding part, and the friendships that you make. I have a nice setup here where this nice little home, and people are able to come and stay with me. And back in college, I did business and tourism. That was one of the kind of main lessons I really learned, was like a successful resort or kind of operation like that. You want to capture your client from the minute they get off the plane till the second they're getting back on it and going home. And I applied that here to fishing, in the idea that I supply them a place to stay, a nice place to stay. And that way, we're here at the house. Transportation is included. So whether you drive in or fly in, we have that covered. You don't have to rent a car. You don't have to find a hotel. Because our lakes they're going to be an hour drive pretty much, no matter if you're in a normal part of town. So it eliminates a lot of that extra cost and lets people come out for maybe 2 days instead of one. And then that also helps us, because it really helps us dial the fishing in. We're out there 2 days back to back. We can both brainstorm on what we need to do the next day or whatever. And it really gives us a chance to like get those cool fish and those cool opportunities that we come here for.
All right.
So it's been a trip, it's been awesome. It's been a lot of fun.
So if you guys ever want to book a trip with Manny, I'll leave all of his like information down below. He's a great guy. He's got an awesome pad here. You guys saw some of the footage here. He actually knows what he's doing. Sometimes. All right, guys, so we're going to start talking about the Deps 250 as a whole and everything that we use for it. So like from rod, reel, line, the hooks, split rings, stuff like that. So hopefully you guys have like an idea as to what you might want to use for like a setup for the 250. So I'm just going to start this off. One
of the, I would say in my first 3 years of this guide business, I was basically... It's Manny Chee Outdoors. They could have just as easily been called Slide Swimmer 250 Outdoors. Like it was such an amazing bait, that like especially back then. You don't see it as much now, but back a few years ago, this bait used to really like have so much draw power on the fish. It used to call fish up and you really got to like learn this like predator behavior that I never learned with any other kind of technique or bait or bass fishing, fly fishing, anything. Like it was it was really like just this huge awakening to how a predator works, what makes them snap, what makes them commit, and getting to tease the fish, getting to draw them, and understanding angles and this and that. But even still to this day, it is a bait that, like, if you just grab one of these slide swimmers and you throw it all day long, something's going to happen.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you're going
you're
to
gonna
get
get
something.
bit.
It's going to be over 5-6 pounds, and our averages have only gone up, with time. They haven't gone down in size. So, 7-8 pounds is going to, you're going to get something. And it's almost becoming year round now, especially with this global warming thing. It's almost becoming like year round. This is a great, like, starter bait. And it's a great bait to like just sack fish up, kind of year round. So that's really one of the reasons that like I really have a lot of faith in the bait, and I would like definitely recommend, like, for anybody new or for anyone out there. There's really not a better like buy on the market starting tool. It teaches you how to swim a swim bait. I mean, that was even one thing that when I started, like I was very used to like a lot of rod input stuff, jerk baits, top waters. I loved reaction baits, but it was like, what do I do with this? What do you mean do you just reel it straight? Do you like stop and go? Like, do I rip it and like a jerk bait? I don't know. So it was a great tool to like teach you those kind of things. And then just price wise, now with these new style ones that are injection molded, the price has been way more moderate than the $250 that they were a while ago. And still, I think it's one of the best buys out there. It has the soft rubber outer shell, so you never have to worry about your paint job. That's one thing with resin baits. They're beautiful, and these guys do amazing paint jobs on them. But the second you hit our rocks, our rock walls, our docks,
half the paint's gone.
Yeah, it starts looking really bad. Now you're having to worry about repaintings and this and that. And this is one that you're really getting your money's worth here. And I used to joke that like, sure, at first this is like a huge investment and everything, and getting around the idea that, oh wait, $120 is not much, that's okay. And but you buy it once and you really use it until you lose it.
Right.
There's no deterioration. You don't need to buy 15 different colors. It used to be like when I would hang out with my buddies and get ready to go fishing, it'd be like the trip to Bass Pro, and we'd end up spending $100 each on this bag of worms, this bag of this, hooks. Oh, I need every color, I need every size. What if they want the little one, the big one? And I'd end up using one thing all day long. Right. So in the end, like, this thing really is way worth the money.
It is.
And just an amazing tool. What have you found out with it?
Well, so he's got like the new style. I fished the new style a long time ago when they first came out, just because I was like, all right, I'm gonna give this a shot, see if they can swim just as well as like an OG. OG pretty much stands for like the original design, which is a foam body. These were like the first ones that came overseas from Japan. Butch Brown was the one who kind of got his hands on it first and kind of just let the cat out the bag with these. And the OGs have kind of just been a staple in the game. Everybody knows what an OG 250 is. They want OG, But it doesn't mean that the new ones are bad. It's just sometimes the new ones, since they are injected molded, they won't have the right tuning. And so you might have to play around with it. But it's the same thing with one of these. You can have bad tuning. You have to go in there and tune it yourself. But you can tune these just a little easier than the new ones, just because you can actually change out the hinge design in the middle. You can pull out like some of the weights, put some tungsten putty in there. You can do a bunch of different things with this bait. But overall, I think the OG 250, like he said before, it's not like what it used to be in its golden days. Like if you go back 2-3 years ago and you go out to like one of our lakes, you're gonna get fallers, you're gonna get these fish, going side to side, wanting to crush it. That's back when fishing was sick. Now it's just like, well, I mean, you're gonna throw this bait and you're gonna get bit, but it's not like you go out there, you're just throwing it, whatever. Now it's more precise. Like, all right, I have to throw it here to get bit, because right now we were talking about, we don't really get fallers that much anymore, so you kind of just get bit. So, and to get bit, you have to do certain types of things. So you have to put it, super close to rock walls or around like ambush spots, like really close, and you have to get like a really good retrieve just for them to bite it. And if you don't have that right retrieve, a lot of times those fish will just come out and follow it, or if you're like 3 feet off of the rock, they'll just come out and follow it and not eat it. And like a lot of those fish that follow it, I'm like, dang, you know, if I was maybe closer or a better, faster retrieve or whatever, you know, I might have gotten bit from that fish. But overall, both the OG and like the new style 250s, they're absolutely amazing baits. You can still find the OGs. It's just, I mean, I tell people just go with the new ones. There's nothing wrong with the new ones. They make a bunch of different colors. And like, again, like color, it doesn't really matter. He's got just this random translucent
Ghost IU.
Ghost IU. And like, we don't have Ghost IUs here. But as you can tell by the look of the bait, it's beat up, it's caught in fish. And like, this is just a random trout. I've caught my biggest bass in a spot that doesn't even have trout on this bait. So color really doesn't matter as long as the bait swims good and like you kind of know what you're doing with it. So other than that, the OG 250, it's a really dope bait. Not much else I can say about it. I just wish they ate it like they used to.
I think one of the big differences that I noticed right away between the two was like how you retrieve it is different. You know, you can't just pick up that bait, swim it a certain way, and then tie on this bait, the new one, and swim it the same and expect it to do the same things.
Right.
One of the, you know, I was seeing in a lot of like the, you know, the Facebook groups and this and that. Oh, these nose up, they swim nose up, they automatically want to come up to the one. Well, it's because you have to do something a little bit different with this one than you do with that one.
Yeah.
And yes, if you just reel in the way, you know, you did that, it will nose up. But a slight little tweak in the swim will keep it down and really get bit. Another one of the really cool differences that, you know, I found, obviously, like this Ghost IU, now with the injection molded, you're able to have these like translucent colors. And then number two, and probably more important, is the bearing ball in here. There's a bearing ball that's on a swivel, or on a spring. You know, and you can hear that thing, you can feel it in your hand quivering. It's kind of like it's really cool. It keeps me entertained because it's kind of like when I was a kid and you could play with the little door stops. Bang, 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 bang. It's that same idea. And apparently fish love to play with that stuff too. Yeah. Like, you know, I do think it makes a difference. And when it gets to that end of its glide and that thing just bang, 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 it's been, you know, really good for me. And really, it's been a great bait. They also started putting some of these like white dots on the top. Those are good for when you're swimming it like subsurface. You can really tell what your swim is doing, how you need to adjust. And for me as a guide, that works out a lot too, because I can tell when, you know, hey, you know, we're not following through on the retrieve, or you need to stop more, or let it go more, or too much slack, or, you know, whatever. You can accommodate for that by seeing those white dots and knowing what's going on.
So that's kind of just the main difference between like the OG and like the new style. Other than that, they're pretty much the same style of bait. Just a little more features on that, like some internal features, of course, and like different colors, stuff like that. But you know, it's all preference at the time.
So Jeff, I see like both of us have different hooks than what it comes with here.
Yeah. So
right.
What
do you have on yours?
We like to swap out the stock hooks on almost all of like the swim baits that we get. For me, especially with the 250, I know some people run the stock and they catch fish. That's fine. I personally have more confidence in throwing the quad hooks. Now, these are the Decoy quads. I've got a feather hook on just my front one.
Beautiful feather, by the way.
Oh, thank you. And so the whole feather idea is pretty much just like something that flares, that moves, and it catches like the fish's attention. So hopefully, you know, when the bait's moving and like it comes up over here and like this is moving around, the fish sees that and hits that, acts like it's a fin, so it can like, you know, injure the fish to where it can like come around and like eat it head first or do whatever else it wants. But I throw quads on it. I throw one-ounce size quads on this bait. I know a lot of people are kind of iffy on the quads. Ever since I started using quads, I've seen a much better hookup ratio than some of the other options out there on the market. But there's definitely other hooks out there on the market, but I personally just like the quads. They're pretty much run on all of my hard baits and my soft baits, so I got a lot of confidence in them.
I also see you have the double split rings on there.
Yeah, as well, I've got like double split rings just because sometimes like when you glide the bait, it'll ride up on one side or the other a lot of the times, and it hangs a little bit lower. So if a fish, you know, comes to the side of it and like hits it, a lot of times you can just kind of clip them since it's hanging just a little bit lower. And so that's pretty much why I like the double split ring, as well as like you can twist it a little bit better. And so like when a fish is like, you know, twisting, doing all that, you don't just like let it like, and it pops off. So you got a little more.
We can kind of show them that. Like I used to run the double split rings a lot myself, but I kind of stopped because I just found that like, well, we don't lose too many on a slide swimmer.
Yeah.
So I kind of felt like, well, you know, maybe it's not that necessary like it is on some of like those, you know, 10-inch plus size baits.
Yeah.
I still definitely like to do it. I like to have that hanging, you know, the hook hanging a little further down. The feather, I run those on all of like my bigger, you know, 11 and 12-inch baits for sure, because like you said, for me, what I found was it really gives them something to key on. And every time you have a front feathered hook, that's the one they end up getting pinned on. Mostly, you know, that like once I started running front feathers, that was the end of like rear hookups. You know, and one of the things with that is if you just hold the treble, and we have the bait, let's say right here, right where everything's kind of 90 degrees, and I take this and I start twisting, like let's say a fish would twist underwater. I can get like 3/4 of a revolution, and right now it's stuck. And if that fish was to move more, it torques and has the possibility of getting off. Whereas your double split ring rig, if we start off here, we get much more of a turn, you know, a full turn at least, before you get into that torquing where it's like it could, you know, it could rip out. I see we both run the split rings on the front.
Yep, split rings on the
front.
front.
That's something I get asked a lot. Like, do you run swivels or this or that? I don't, but if a bait is designed with the split ring, and if it's from someone like Deps, you know, the Japanese are very like, there's a lot of you know, research and development that goes into these baits. If they send it with, you know, that split ring, I'm using it.
Yeah.
But if it's, you know, if it's just a regular bait, it doesn't have that, then I usually do not use a split ring or a swivel or any of that kind of, you know, snap swivel on my glide baits, with the idea that you want that direct, you know, direct line control. So, you know, one of the ways that we don't get bit too much is when the bait is what we call washing out. So, you know, you're going and it's acting too crazy, too erratic. Yeah. And that, you know, that some of the split rings and other things will kind of like aid that to happen, right? So I like usually a direct tie, and also when you're giving it, you know, real input, it's going direct to the bait. So that's cool. Both of us run that.
Just the split rings, but again, like you said, it jumps from bait to bait. Like on our mothers, we don't have split rings on that.
Yeah.
On my Hinkle, I have like a little swivel that I use just because confidence reasons. Just because the Hinkle's a little bit different bait, but
and also like the nose kind of right on the line thing there.
It's a little close, so it can be sketch, but it really just jumps from bait to bait. A lot of the times, if I get a bait and it doesn't have a split ring, I'll fish it and I see how I like it. If it doesn't swim like that well, I will try a split ring.
Yeah.
See if that changes anything. If it does, then I'll keep it. If it doesn't, just go back to. So you kind of have to experiment. It's all personal preference at that point. But normally, if a bait comes with a split ring, you might as well just use a split ring.
Yeah. Our buddy Oliver always likes the snap swivels, and obviously he does extremely well.
Yeah.
On my baits, like I've almost found that sometimes I like to the old ones, when I first started buying this like 5 years ago, they used to come with some hooks that were like kind of like fake owners, I think, or something like that. Sure I don't know, maybe talking out like that, but they definitely weren't like the stickiest, sharpest bait or hooks back then. I do feel like they probably have changed what they put on there, because nowadays I usually fish one with the stock hooks until they go dull.
Yeah.
You know, and usually people are throwing them into rocks, and you know, my baits get a lot more abuse than like say your normal, you know, personal baits would. So, you know, they get abused more, and those, once I start seeing like some of the hooks going dull or getting hit or getting chipped, or you know, sometimes I throw them into a rock and it comes back like that's when I switch them. And but definitely my preferred hook setup is the Gamakatsu round bends, and I'm throwing around 1/0 on there, and those have been nice. And I also like that they're very sticky, they're very lightweight, so it also kind of adds to that a little more buoyancy that I like. You know, I like them to be a little less fast sinking, a little more slow sinking, and that's kind of what what I run right now with the hooks.
Right. And so like with a lot of people, they're like, well, you got such a giant bait, don't you want to have bigger hooks? And a lot of the times you don't. You want to have like some of the smallest hooks that you can possibly get away with, just because it'll make the bait look a little more natural in the water. That's why I go with like the size 1 quads. I mean, that's the biggest that they come in, and they're actually pretty small. So a lot of people, you know, complain about that, like, hey, Jeff, don't you want to use like 2-aughts and stuff like that? I'm like, nah, that's just a little too big. I mean, if a fish hits this thing, dude, it's gonna find that hook, you know.
I also feel like it helps that like these smaller, lighter hooks can like swing in. You know, if they're doing one of those like suck-in kind of eats, it, you know, allows it to also kind of go into the mouth better or slide into there. We've done well with that,
Right.
yeah, rather than the big
giant
chunkers.
2-aughts.